Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Boardmasters with me, Chris Mullins. And today I want to talk about Wild Assent Lavon Rising. And I'm uploading a bit earlier than I normally do because, as you can see, the campaign's only got 6.5 hours at the point of recording. So probably 5 hours by the time I upload it. And yeah, so let's talk about the game. And the reason I want to talk about it is because if you've watched any of my footage in the past, you'll know I'm pretty new to the hobby. I started backing Kickstarters this time last year, but I didn't really understand the behavior and pattern of normal campaigns until probably the end of August, when I started watching YouTube channels, particularly like Board Game Co, for example, to sort of understand you have the 48-hour boost at the beginning, then a quiet middle, then you have the 48-hour jump at the end where FOMO starts kicking in and everyone dives in. And so this is probably the first, certainly high-profile campaign that I've seen that has kind of bucked that trend. In that, for example, as you can see, goal reached in the first 5 minutes, 27 seconds. I think by the end of the first day, it was around $500,000. And over the week since, it steadily grew to the point where I think yesterday it certainly crossed 850,000. I'm not sure where it peaked because there isn't sort of a kick track alternative for GameFound yet, because obviously it's still a relatively new platform for crowdfunding. And then when the 48-hour emails went out where you expect a big boom, and you sort of generally a Kickstarter, a successful one will make the same amount in the last 48 hours as it did in the first. Whereas this one has gone quite dramatically backwards. It's gone back at least 50,000, if not almost certainly more. And it's the first time I've seen that. I'm sure more experienced people who've been in the hobby longer will have examples of other games that have done the same. And obviously you see it happen with smaller campaigns if they don't look like they're going to fund, and people, jump off a sinking ship and put their money into other things. But another reason why I wanted to talk about it is because it is one that I did back. I had the Lavon Rising pledge a week ago and have since cancelled it, and wanted to talk about why I've done that, because obviously that mirrors a decent amount of people. And I want to stress as well, $800,000, almost 3,000 backers. This is a successful campaign. This is not to knock and say the campaign isn't doing well, or that Lazy Squire Games have made a bad product in any way. I'm not saying that at all. I haven't played the game. I'm not previewing the gameplay in any way. I'm just talking about as just someone in the hobby, someone who wanted to back the game, has followed the campaign all the way through, because even though I cancelled my pledge 4 or 5 days ago, I've still been looking for an excuse to back it because it looks absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, it's just something that has caught my attention because it's something I haven't experienced before. And yeah, one thing I do want to just talk about how gorgeous this game looks. I love dinosaurs, so anything with the dinosaur theme, this mammoth looks great. The minis are absolutely stunning. And again, you will know if you followed my content that I absolutely love minis. And just want to talk about why this campaign seems to have bucked the trend and not behaved in a way that you would normally expect. And in the comment section the last couple of days, I know there's been a lot of heat directed towards King of Average. I'm not going to click into the comments. You can check that out yourself. I don't want to highlight anyone in particular because I don't want to put a spotlight on someone and risk that, people in the current climate, if you feature someone who has an opinion, that can quite often invite criticism, which they don't deserve, to be honest. And I don't want to be the person that invites that on them. But you can check out the comment section and see if you agree or anything. But there's been a lot of heat aimed at the King of Average's review of Lavon Rising. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. And basically, it's a fairly negative review. I'll see if I can get the screenshots. where he took, I can't see it on there, but basically he is a big fan of the component quality. Again, similar to me, says it's gorgeous, and then goes on to talk about that the arena mode is fine, but it's not great. The campaign doesn't really work. He doesn't like the encampment phase. He doesn't. And, a lot of people said it's unreasonable for him as now a fairly high-profile content creator. He shouldn't be releasing content in the last 3 days of a campaign if it's negative and drive people away, which I think is garbage, to be quite honest with you. As if someone has got an opinion, they've got every right to say it. They don't have any responsibility to the developers to withhold a negative opinion or only give a negative opinion early on for fear of causing negative impact on the campaign. That I don't buy that at all. And as you can see, some of these designs are absolutely stunning. But a lot of what he said, I agree with. I mean, so talking into the game, you've got the base campaign, which Wild Assent, which has started coming out. It's been a couple of years after the campaign, and it's basically a game where you have two main modes. You have the arena mode, which is obviously you build an army, and it's a two-player skirmish game, which again, if you've seen my content, you'll know doesn't really appeal to me. So it's not, that's never going to win me over. It's never going to make me want to invest in a game. And King of Average is a big fan of skirmish games generally, and he said it's fine, it's good, but there are far better skirmish games out there. So that's fair enough. But also in Wild Assent they call it a campaign, but it's very, very linear. It seems to be more like a series of 10 scenarios that have some very light narrative in between just to explain why you're doing that scenario. And it's kind of like a challenge of how far through these 10 scenarios you can last, which again isn't what I want from a campaign. I don't want to play a campaign and just have an excuse to do it. I love the narrative, I love the flavor text. So the core game doesn't appeal to me. And then you've got sort of the expansion box from the first one, Silverstream I think it's called, which from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, just seemed to double down on the base game, offered more content, more hunters, more monsters, and that was it. And if you like the core game, brilliant. If you're not really interested in the core game, then there's very little reason to buy Silverstream. And that then causes the issue for Wild Assent, or for Lavon Rising, sorry. In that Lavon Rising is the new expansion. That's what the campaign is for. And in Lavon Rising, that introduces the mechanics that I'm interested in. That brings in branching narratives that, obviously this is negative. If you check out, obviously I speak about Board Game Co. a lot. He has done a number of videos on Lavon Rising, and he gave it 5 out of 5. He was hugely positive of it in here. They've got a review with Quackalope. Again, Quackalope is someone I'm a huge fan of, and again is largely positive about the game. And Alex of Board Game Co. was hugely positive about the branching narrative, and that is the primary reason why I got interested in this campaign to begin with. But in order to get the branching campaign, then you need to at least go in at this pledge level, because they've engineered it in a way that you cannot play the new content with the branching campaign without having the older boxes, because there are components from the original boxes that you need to have to play the new narratives. And for me, that means I've got to spend at least $370 plus $40 shipping for wave 1 plus whatever the shipping's going to be for wave 2, so potentially $450 minimum, in order to get the 1 or 2 boxes of content that I actually am interested in. And that is a huge barrier of entry for someone who's not convinced. And it's one of those where on paper, it should be an easy campaign to walk away from, because that is just, I can't justify that. And that is why I cancelled my pledge. I cannot justify something that I might like, something where the core gameplay, a lot of people I respect, like Alex and Jesse, are very positive about the gameplay, but I don't know if it's for me. And there's no point going in on a core box pledge, because there's very little in the core pledge that I actually want. There's no point going in with a Shadow of the Silverstream pledge, because again, there's nothing there that I particularly want. I want the newer content, but I can't get the new content without the old content. So they basically shut me out unless I'm willing to spend an awful lot of money. And it's something I'm not prepared to do. So that is why I cancelled it. And I imagine that is also the primary reason why a lot of people have jumped out of this campaign in the last 48 hours. And, you know, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 is a lot of money, but if they were all in pledges, then you're probably only looking at 200 or 300 backers maximum, so less than 10% potentially. So it's still a relatively small proportion have walked away from this campaign. And it, as I said at the beginning, still a very successful campaign with a gorgeous production quality. But I cannot see how so many people can attack King of Average for releasing a negative review late in a campaign and almost torpedoing a campaign, and that he should hold himself to a better standard and not allow himself to do that because it's not fair to Lazy Squire Games, for example. And that's kind of what triggered me in a way that made me think I have to do a review like this. And again, I will link, as I said, I'll link King of Average's review, I will link Board Game Co.'s review and Should You Back It articles, so that you've got the balance of the positive, and I will link the campaign page if you want to check it out. But as someone who has backed the game, who then cancelled the game, I just wanted to give my opinion, well, not necessarily my opinion, my reasons why I felt like I couldn't keep my pledge for Wild Assent. And unfortunately, it is on Lazy Squire Games, and I appreciate, I commented on the page 5-6 days ago saying that I can't back this because the content I want to play is locked behind a pledge level that is just far too expensive. And they replied, in fairness to them, and said, you know, it's building on the original game, and it would have cost too much to make it stand alone, and they wanted to, you know, thread it through the original game. And that's fair enough. That's their prerogative. They're not wrong to do that. It's just, unfortunately, made it impossible for me to back it as it is. And yeah, I guess that's the video in a way. I just wanted to put my reasons out there, and I do really, really wish them well. And everyone who backs it, I hope they get the game that they're hoping for, and that it lives up to certainly the promise that the component quality gives, because I do want these minis. They are so, so pretty, and these sort of dinosaur designs look incredible, or I suppose probably dragons really, but still the picture there looks like an awesome sort of T-Rex Triceratops hybrid to me. But as you can see, I mean, the funding levels are dropping as we speak, and it's just such an alien thing for me to see that I felt like I wanted to talk about it. And that's kind of everything I've got to say, really. So I'll leave the video there. So thank you very much for watching. Please comment down below and let's get a discussion going, because I'm sure there's some stuff that I'm missing. I'm sure if you are backing it and you're not an existing backer, if you are coming for it new, and why do you think it is worth the money? Why have you been willing to pledge $300, $400, $500 for a game that you're not familiar with? Please let me know. Let's talk about it. But again, as I said, I'll leave the video there. So thank you very much for watching. Look after yourself, stay safe, and have a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye now.